Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We're here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Hi, Carrie.
Hi there. I'm so glad to have you back from your vacation.
Yes, it was an amazing time, and I would say I'm glad to be back, but there's something about being
I don't
away
know,
with
yeah.
just your family that is really, really nice.
Exactly.
It seems like the older everyone gets, the fewer times we have like that. So
Exactly.
I am ready to dive back in with you, though. I'm excited about that.
Let's go. Bring it.
Okay, so we've been having a lot of discussions with coaches, with therapists, recovery specialists.
Do you see a theme here? There's a theme.
I do see a theme, and I think it's so important because I think a lot of our young adult population are having some issues that are not easily addressed, and parents aren't willing to openly discuss a lot of these issues that are arising because nobody wants to be the one to raise their hand and say, it's me, I'm the one, I'm having problems.
You know what I find interesting, though, if I could just stop you for 1 second?
Yeah, sure, go
It
ahead,
seems
please.
way more common nowadays for anyone, whether it's an adult or a teenager, to say, like, I have a therapist or I'm going to a therapist. That seems a little bit more
Yes,
accepted, but
little
still,
destigmatized.
yes, but still some of the scary terms, of mental illness still seem to frighten people or make them want to be private about what's really going on. And, that's still a challenge for people who have mental illness, right? Like
Yes,
if you had cancer or if you had diabetes or if you had irritable bowel syndrome, right? Like we're not labeling people as cancer,
right.
but I feel like as a parent, we wouldn't shy away from saying, I have cancer or my child has cancer and we're, seeking medical
Right.
treatment. But it still feels a little bit, aside from like, yes, we're seeing a therapist, but the fact if your child had to seek more intense treatment and go to an outpatient, right? Like that still seems like parents don't want to talk about that, or if they went to a wilderness program, like it still seems like hush
Well,
hush.
I don't know. I
I was
feel
shushing
right.
the
Right, right.
not you.
I feel like there's still some degree of shame attached to a mental health diagnosis. And I do believe, I know we've discussed this before, but there's definitely some questioning on the parents' part. Where did I go wrong? How did I miss this? And let's not forget comparison. If you're talking to your girlfriend whose son just got a job at some big firm in a big city and they're seem to be flourishing, are you really going to want to stick up your hand and say, well, we just got back from a treatment facility where we had to put our child there? I mean, not everybody, there's the comparison of our society about what other people are doing and what your child is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Not that there should be, everyone's going on their own journey, and that's not to say even the person who has that great job in a big city, you don't know what struggles they're going through because, I still think that not everybody is yes, it's getting better, but I do believe that not everybody is on the same page about sharing mental health challenges.
okay. So you talked about shame. So I'm just going to bring up shame. And I guess we can just disclose right now that Jessica and my conversation today will be Jessica asking me questions about my family's mental health journey.
Yes,
And
we
so
we
the
have
goal
we're getting
here,
the perspective of, firsthand perspective from Carrie as a parent.
is to help other parents because there are not a lot of resources that are marketing themselves and saying, "Hey, we're here to help." So there are a lot of resources out there, but it takes a parent or a young adult to really ask for help, reach out, go talk to people to find the right resources. So, we're going to share a lot of information today, and it's all in the goal of providing information for parents out there that might not know where to turn. So,
Okay,
can we talk about shame real quickly, even though
sure.
I went off on that
No, no,
tangent?
no, that's okay.
Okay, so my son has a mental illness and it surfaced, later in high school, compounded majorly by a mass school shooting, trauma, which brings out things that might either be lying dormant or exacerbates um, a mental
Existing.
illness
Right, right.
that is already there.
Mhm.
So, shame. The actual individual who has the mental illness carries around so much shame because in their head, they are constantly either talking to themselves in a negative way. They're already comparing themselves to other people because they already feel so different than everybody else. So, what I would love to point out to parents is do not feel shameful of your journey or your child's journey. Because if you feel shame, you are only contributing and adding to the shame that they carry around. And it takes a lot of therapy for the individual who has the mental illness to accept their illness, and they constantly feel shame for it because society tells them there is something wrong with them. They are not normal. And that is not the case. We all have stuff. We all have things medical, mental health,
Right.
physical, and no one should be made to feel less than. And so, the most important message I would have for a parent is talk about it. Don't hide behind it because that just adds to the shame that I'm just going to go with child because that's my situation that your child already feels.
So, I think that is a great way to start, and I think what you're saying is so important. I what keeps coming up for me, though, is that sounds easier said than done. Just telling a parent, "Don't feel shame." I mean,
Okay.
did you is that something you had to live through to realize?
I don't think I personally ever felt shame. It's the
Okay.
way other people made me feel by avoiding me or not checking in on our family or just comments people would make.
Right.
So I don't think I felt shame. And you said something about guilty or guilty that we didn't notice signs or things like that. But again, would you feel guilty if you took your child to the doctor every year for their annual visits, and then one of the visits, their blood work came back and you realized they had diabetes, right? You wouldn't feel guilty, right? You learn something about your child and then you educate yourself and you do your best to educate your child and you seek out the proper tools. So that would be doctors and therapists, and whether they need treatment centers, whatever it is, it's no different. So I feel like that adds to the stigma that because we didn't cause it. You
Right.
do not cause a mental illness in your child. Now, some might run in families, and so your child might be more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Prone or
Like
predisposed.
prone to predisposed to it, but you didn't cause it, and neither did the child,
Right.
right? The child didn't cause themselves to have anxiety.
You brought up a lot of great points there. Can you talk about some of the signs that were prevalent for you
Yep.
that made you think, "Huh, I we need to address the mental health issue here."
Yes. Um, so it started with change in sleeping habits. So not so much that I noticed, but that my son would say to me often, I'm having trouble sleeping. I can't sleep. I'm having trouble going to sleep. Or there'd be days where he would sleep too much and I slept through class.
Okay.
So, when you're in college, some of that you think, oh, that might be normal.
Right.
They might not have good sleep hygiene. They stayed out too late one night. They aren't eating healthy. So at first, you kind of come up with excuses in your own head what might be
Right.
going on.
Chalk it up to
But,
typical college behavior.
right, that is a huge sign. And I give my son so much credit that he didn't hide it from us, that he actually would share it.
Okay.
But as a parent, you don't go first to, oh my God, what does this mean? Is this a sign of something larger? Okay, let's watch it. Let's talk about things you can do for sleep. The other things are change in hygiene habits. So, this is a really critical one. Again, if your child is away at college or you don't see them as often, maybe they're living in their own apartment, but if they're a teenager at home and you start to notice a change in hygiene, meaning they're not showering as often, they don't really care about taking care of brushing their hair if they used to. Um, they're
So
just
change in
wearing
appearance
change in
and
appearance, wearing the same clothes over and over. If you make a comment about it, they brush it off. They might even avoid the conversation with you about it.
okay.
That's a huge, or they might say, like, I'm having a really hard time, like, even motivating to get in the shower today,
Hmm.
or I'm having a hard time, you know, I don't have the same appetite, right? Like, I'm not
Okay.
hungry
Right.
or eating a lot. Like you've gone in your kids' rooms before and all of a sudden you find wrappers and plates and things like shoved under the bed, right? Like, yeah, okay, you could say, like, oh, a growing teenager,
Right.
but start to pay attention to that. If that's in addition to other things, I would say a change in eating habits alone might not be a sign, but, and if they're eating at different times than the family, another would
And
be staying in their room,
right.
isolating.
So basically it's changes to what were normal routines for them.
Yes. Yeah. And as a parent, um, tell your child you notice it. Don't be afraid or avoid the conversation or feel like, oh, maybe I'll set them off, or this isn't a good time. Like, I definitely made the mistake. I tried to always find like the right time to have the conversation. There is no right time. Just go right
Right.
in. Right. This is what I notice. Don't like ask them questions like, why aren't you showering? But this is what I notice. I'm noticing a change in this. I notice it looks more difficult for you to do your
Yeah,
hair,
I
whatever
think
it is.
that's
So
I I like that
you're
approach, not attacking them, but just you
right,
making it
not
an I
not like,
statement, "I've
"What's going
noticed."
on?" Right, "You haven't showered in 3 days, what's going on?"
Right,
Like, that would not be because they know.
right.
They
Mm,
know
that they haven't,
that
yeah.
they haven't and that it's difficult for them, and that's what you wanna listen for in your conversation. When they sound distressed or things that normally came easy to them or that they were interested in, all of a sudden, you can hear in their tone of voice that it has changed.
You see these, let's call them red flags or
Mhm.
indicators or concerns, then what? How do you begin? I cannot even imagine the daunting task of trying to figure out how to get your child help if they need it.
Yeah.
Do you start with
So,
just a therapist? Like, how do you know when they need more?
I think at first you start with how can and if you're married, if you have a partner, if they have a father, you do it together. Don't one parent just take it on themselves. I would say both parents should have a conversation with the child so you're showing family support, right? This
Okay.
just isn't mob or it's just not dad because you don't want to start that, oh, don't tell dad or don't tell mom, right?
Right. Well, and not to interrupt, but the truth of the matter is it does affect the whole family. It's
It
not
does.
just affecting mom or dad or
It does.
okay.
Absolutely. So have a conversation together and say, we're concerned. We're concerned. This is what we're noticing. How are you feeling? What can we do to support you? How can we help? What would you like from us? Now, they might say, I've tried all of these things, nothing's working. They might say, I'm fine. I have it. Leave me alone.
Mhm.
Or they might say, I don't know. I, I have no idea.
Right.
So, in any of those scenarios, I'd say you are still starting to look for support. And I think the first level of support, if your child is willing to see a therapist, you start there. If they're already seeing a therapist and they seem like they're in crisis or things aren't they aren't able to implement the things the therapist is recommending, you can try having a conversation with the therapist. You can always, even if your child, number one, you should always try your best to have your child, whether they're a teeny, obviously, if they're a teenager, you have access to their therapist. But if they're an adult or a young adult, to ask them, could you please allow us to have conversations with your therapist. Not,
Okay.
we're not going to find out details. We're not going to be in your session. But regardless of whether you do or do not, you can always, as a parent, send an email with details of what you are witnessing to the therapist, to the doctor, to the psychiatrist. It is really, really important for other eyes to see what's going on and give information.
Yeah, that makes
Because when your
sense.
child or yourself or your adult goes to a therapist, they may not even see clearly what's going on,
Right.
or they may not share everything. Or sometimes what my son did, what I found was he would report like what he was feeling that day, not like the past 2 weeks.
Right.
Or and so what if it was a
That's
good
interesting.
day?
Yeah.
What if
Mhm.
it was a terrible day? They're not giving information about the whole picture, and that's really important. That's the information the parents have that's really critical. So I've heard and I've read before on some of the parenting sites, what are the therapists doing that are giving terrible advice or why aren't they helping? Well, you have to also remember you don't know what your child is saying to them.
What they're sharing, right?
They may
Or
not
not
be
sharing.
even getting a full picture of what's going on. So your
Right.
email is super helpful,
Helpful. Mhm.
super helpful. Okay, so therapist, you can reach out to the therapist. It
Yep.
feels like we might need more intensive treatment. Um, I feel like we're in a crisis, or can you evaluate to see if we're in a crisis? Can you guide us? Now, if your child has already been dealing with some mental health challenges, the parents should also have their own therapist or
Mm.
a family therapist that is different than the child's independent therapist.
Okay.
Because when this happens, this is a, like you said before, this is a family situation. And parents, you will have to change and learn in parallel to your child.
Mm.
You cannot expect that the child's going to go to the therapist, the child's going to go to a treatment facility, learn strategies, learn their tools, and be able to adopt them on their own.
Right. They're
There
going
are
to need your
things
support.
as parents, and again, you are not contributing to the problem, but you will need to learn a new way of parenting someone with a mental illness.
Mm.
If you have more than one child, we talked about this before. Do you parent the same way? No, but you're going to have to learn. You will need to learn for yourself where your boundaries are, where your child understand your child's boundaries, because our first inclination is whatever illness our child has, medical, mental health, physical, we feel bad for them. We kind of want to not make things worse.
Or
So
fix.
we're right, or fix. And sometimes we're afraid. We are afraid to hold a firm boundary because we feel like it might make it worse. It might, but this is really important. And this is where a family therapist will help because we don't know. We are not therapists. And even if we are trained in social work or therapy or coaching, it is really, really hard to implement the strategies on your own child without support yourself. So critical.
In your experience, do the therapists ever work as a team? Do they talk to each other
Yes,
or
yes. You have to give permission, but
Mhm.
you should absolutely have a team that works together.
Okay.
100%. That
Okay.
is and the same thing with the psychiatrist. If you could get everyone involved and know what each of the team members' doctors are, that is your best case scenario. That is your
Okay.
best case scenario.
So let's say you've gone the avenue of a therapist, you have your family has a therapist, your child who has a diagnosis or is going through some mental health issues has a therapist. What happens if the therapists believe that more is needed? An outpatient program or an inpatient program? How do you go about finding what would be the best fit for your child and your family?
So I would first start with the therapist or the psychiatrist first. Um, I would get their recommendations if they're familiar with whether they're requiring outpatient or inpatient programs. And again, you probably won't know as the parent. And the therapist and psychiatrist will, if they're good, because I've had some bad ones that basically handed me a sheet of paper and said, I don't know, you could try these.
Ugh.
Wasn't very helpful. But if you have a good psychiatrist or therapist, they could make some recommendations. That's a
Okay.
starting point. You can also start by calling your behavioral health on your health insurance and get information, and they can tell you some treatment
Before.
programs that
Mhm.
would be covered by insurance. So there's going to be, ones that are in in network. There's going to be out of network, and then there's going to be self pay, and that is up to each individual family.
Yeah,
I can give my opinion and what our experience has been, but unfortunately, it's really expensive. So I can't say what each family's situation would
sure.
be,
It's well,
but
that's why you do the research to
you
figure
do the
out what your
research.
best options are.
Yes. And this is where it becomes really important to talk about it with friends, people you might know, a support group. This is where you need to start asking other people for their experiences and if they know of anyone. Now, our family situation, I have been, this has been our past 5 years, and I am happy to talk to anyone about any of my experiences and give my recommendations. So I believe that most people who have been through both a residential treatment, an outpatient program, a family therapy program, most people are willing to talk and share their experiences. So this is where it's really, really important for parents, because if you don't, you will start to feel isolated and very alone if you do not, at this point, when you really need help, start to ask for it and talk to people. I mean, I wanted to crawl into the bed and never come
Just
out,
right.
but that wasn't helping my child or my family.
Did you find, once you started talking about it, that more people had information than you thought they would, or that this one knew, or did you feel like you were the pioneer out of your friends and you were the first one going through something like this?
Yes, unfortunately, I did feel alone, and I would say the first my child went through a few different residential programs over the several years, and I'm proud of myself that the first one I somehow found on my own, but no like the psychiatrist, like I said, who'd given me the worksheet, never heard anything about them. I did my due diligence. We're in Florida. This was in Atlanta, Georgia. I got on a plane with my son and we went there and we actually visited it. It
Mm,
wasn't like, let's just pick one from a list that the insurance gave me and we're going to go there. Like, I had phone calls, and that's it. This is where you start to assess too if it's a good program or not. Get on the phone with them. They will do a short intake with your child or with you getting the information. You should absolutely, if you can, if it's not urgent crisis, go visit. If your child is willing, take them for a visit and look at more than one.
mm,
It's good to have choices. I know this sounds like probably really foreign, like we're going to look at colleges, but
right.
this is what it is. This is a critical moment in your child's life, in your family's life, and not
And for
all
their
treatment,
future
yeah,
also,
not all treatment
it's
is the same. And I would caution anyone that thinks that going into a 30-day program and coming out is doing like, no. It takes 30 days to just learn a new routine, because when you go to a program, you are on, and most kids, let's take it that you're dealing with depression or anxiety, right? You've now withdrawn from a lot of what you normally would do. So part of the program is getting you back to a schedule, and the schedule is going to be busy. It's going to involve groups and individual therapy and activities and healthy things and food. That's number one, is
right.
getting you back to a regular routine schedule. So that takes time. And then therapy takes time and adopting new skills. So the part about whether you're inpatient or outpatient is just getting used to sharing your feelings with a stranger because that's what happens. You're meeting a new therapist. You might be in groups with other strangers, hopefully around your same age. So that's, right? If you have a teenager or you have a young adult, you want programs that are with like age
Age
groups.
peers, right, age
Yes, it
peers.
would be challenging to put your 18-year-old in a group with a 60-year-old. They're what's going like, they might
Different
have the
life
same mental
experiences,
health
yeah,
condition, but, what they're gonna talk about is not the same.
completely different, right.
Right. So that's super helpful, and then having a family program. There needs to be family support. Because again, if your child is going to an outpatient program, which usually is a couple days a week, half days or full days, couple days a week, they're different. Residential program is they live somewhere else and it's full days. And but anyway, the family program is super important because you want to be talking to a therapist, and it's not the type of thing where in the family therapy, they're telling you what your child's doing. So you're going to talk about it. It's let's talk about the things that we were noticing and how can we be supported. And they're going to teach us things on how to support our loved one when they call us on the phone,
Hmm,
during
that's
treatment
important, you don't even think about
or,
it. That
right?
might not
Like,
be a question you even think to ask or talk about. What do I
and
say to them when they call?
some programs, I'll just talk from young adults because that's what I know, but some they're allowed to keep their phones.
Okay,
Others, they're not. So that's a consideration. We've done
okay,
both.
okay.
The first program my son went to, and I look back, and again, I was just trying, I didn't know from anything, right? Like, I didn't know what I was doing. But because he had his phone, every day I would like send him these little memes and, you go, love you, go get,
Affirmations?
like, what? What was I mean, I get it. You're not gonna like not communicate with your child. But, like, me sending, like, that, like, "You're working really hard, I'm so proud of you," like, honestly, it was doing nothing. It was probably really annoying for him to be honest.
Right.
But, what did I know, right?
But
But
right but again, you don't know,
no.
you want to do just as their mom, you want to do everything to help them, and that's the only thing in your power that you can do in that moment,
Yes.
so I can understand where that came from.
Yeah. So the best piece of advice I was given was even if your child tells you, "Stop," or "Don't come visit me," or "I don't wanna hear," like, you still show up. You still show up. Even if they're same thing, if they were hospitalized, right? Visiting hours or in the inpatient facilities in a residential treatment program, if there's visitation, you show up. If your child tells you, I don't want to see you, you show up. Because guess what? They are told every time that you come, whether they see you or not, you showed up. And that is the one thing because they feel alone. They feel like no one supports them anymore. Everyone has left them. They're now off on this island by themselves.
Mm,
And yes, it might be their defense mechanism. They're embarrassed. This is where the shame comes in. I don't want to see you. But you show up. You show up because they will be told by even if they didn't see
right,
your parents came, your family came, you got an email, you got a letter, whatever it
right,
is. Keep showing up. That is
yeah,
the best thing that you could do. It's hard,
of course.
but that's what you do.
So now your child comes home from, let's say they were at an inpatient facility, they're coming back to your home, to the family home. How difficult is is it to set the boundaries hold the boundaries and make sure at the same time that your child is moving forward in a positive way?
Transitions are really important, whatever stage you're at with a mental illness. So, whether it's an inpatient or an outpatient program, the transition's super important. And the team that they have been working with, whether inpatient or outpatient, will have a transition plan. And it's really important for the family, the parents, to get involved in understanding what the transition plan looks like. And again, if you're researching programs, this is a question you need to ask. Do you help the families with the transition plan? Is there a transition plan when they leave? It should absolutely be yes.
Okay.
It's critical because while they're in treatment, again, they're getting help, they're on a routine, things are very structured for them. When they return home, or whether they go to a sober living facility, or they go to a group home, or they go to, there's other places in transition before coming home, or they go live in their own apartment with a roommate and you have a social worker or a case manager come in. There are lots of different, there's not one way to do it, but it is critical to understand the plan and what the parent's role in the plan is and what your child's role is. So, for example, if you're leaving a residential program and you're coming home and you're going to be attending a 3-day a week outpatient program, is your child driving themselves? Is the parent driving them? What are the days? They're required to be there all the time. What's going to happen on the off days? Are they going to start working? Are they going to be taking classes? What's the
And all of this sh
responsibilities
all
at
of these
home?
questions, everything should be done before they come home,
Yes.
if possible.
Yes. Now, the treatment facility isn't going to map out the whole thing for you. What they're interested in is, are they going to an inpatient program? Are they living at home? Where are they living? Who's the psychiatrist? What are the next appointment? Right? They want to make sure the care is going to continue. They might be
Mhm.
on new medications. Who's going to take that over? So, like, they want those things, but it's up to the family to put together the structure and what it's going to look like. Communicate that with your child. You can have your family therapist or the individual therapist say, I'd like to schedule this meeting so we could go over what this is going to look like and have an agreement.
Okay.
Parents, you need to talk about this beforehand. What's it going to look like? What are the boundaries? What happens if someone doesn't do it, right? Or if your child had a substance abuse problem and the requirement to come back and live at home versus sober living is to not use, are you going to drug test? You can use a third party company to do the drug testing. The psychiatrist could do it. But all of these things need to be discussed and in place first. And don't be in a rush. Like, yes, insurance will all of a sudden be like, oh, next week, end of insurance, or the program may say, you know what, we feel like your child's ready for the next step. You still don't allow someone else to manage that process for you, and don't be in a reactive defensive place. Like,
What does that mean? What do you so if someone's coming
so
at
if
you and saying they're
they're ready to
done, they're ready to
go,
move
they're
on.
gonna leave in 2 days, and you're like, "Oh my god, now what?" Like, you say,
Mhm.
"Okay, well, we might need a little bit more time. We need to put together the plan. We haven't gotten together to discuss the plan with the
Right.
therapist and our child. This is really important to us." Do not say, "We'll figure it out." Or if your child starts pushing the envelope, like, "I'm ready, I'm done, I'm leaving, I'm not staying here a minute longer." No, parents, you still hold the card. You still hold the card. I'm assuming you've been paying for treatment. You paid for a way for them to get there and you drove them or you're going to pick them up.
Right.
Okay, there might be the situations where the kids are still um, in a crisis situation and like might walk out of a program. That's a whole different
Right,
episode
right,
and conversation. But remember, like, this is the next step to success for your family and your child. This is a critical part.
yeah,
And this is
and I
again
would
where you need the family therapy support because it's
right,
hard. It's really hard when your child comes home. Things are because they're going back to the same room potentially, or they're going back to maybe what caused some of the isolation or the anxiety or
right,
the drug abuse. So there's a lot of things that you need to get in place before that can even happen. And do not be afraid, parents, if you are like, this, I can't have my child come home. That doesn't make you a bad parent. That makes you a loving, supportive parent if you realize that they need more structure than you can provide. That is okay. We didn't have our children raise them, expect that this is going to be part of our journey.
right,
It's so unknown until you're in it.
right.
And it requires a lot of help and a lot of support and a lot of hard work on everyone's part. Your child is working so hard, but so are you as a family. I
Sure.
knew that my son had situational depression during high school. And so, I thought I should just make his life easier. Well, that wasn't the case. I wasn't going to remove the depression or cure him from possibly having a longer term challenge. What I should have been working towards was teaching the coping skills or having help with our family to help us not fix and do more to make his life easier. So the goal should be when you notice some of these things to try to teach the coping strategies at an earlier age or sooner, even if they're really struggling. That's the only way through. Like,
Right.
we can love and support our children, but we are not going to be able to do it for them.
And as a parent, what happens if you don't know yourself what those coping strategies are to teach your child?
This is where you need help. So,
Yeah. But that goes back to what you said at the very beginning. Parents, when you need help, ask for it. There is no shame in that.
there's so much help out there. You just have to ask for it. You just have to, you know, be brave. Like, and that's the way I looked at my son. I'm going to get emotional here, but he's so brave. He is so brave. What he's been through, he's just my warrior. And I'm so proud of him. Like, he has such determination. But parents, we have to be brave too. It's not easy, but be brave. That means go to a support group, speak out loud how you're really feeling. Say, I'm scared, you know, say, I don't know what to do. But I'm telling you, people will help you, whether it's people that have been through it before, doctors, therapists, friends. I mean, there'll be friends that say, I have no idea, but I will sit here with you and I will hold your hand or I will listen to you talk about it 1,800 times. So your children are brave. It is so hard what they're dealing with. And you're going to be brave too as parents. But it is hard and it requires hard work. And our family's motto is we can do hard things because you can. You absolutely can.
I was going to end with a question. What would you want parents to know who are first going through this? but I think what you said was perfect. Carrie, thank you so much for sharing your
You're
journey
welcome.
and your your knowledge. Listen, nobody sets out on this journey of parenting wanting this knowledge,
Nope.
but you do it. You put yourself out there. You know, we talk about not fixing our kids, but finding the tools to help them be brave, like you said, and get stronger, and we provide them with the help that they need. And along the way, we can't forget that we also need help,
Mhm.
and it's okay to ask for it.
Yeah,
There is absolutely no shame in that.
and if anyone's out there listening, struggling right now or not knowing what to do, please reach out. I am available by email, by cell phone, however you wish. That's why Jessica and I are doing what we're doing, is because it is not easy and it requires a village. It requires a team of other parents to help through each of the stages. They are all challenging. So do not be afraid to reach out if you need some extra support. Thank you so much for having me on as your guest today.
Well, you were a great guest. Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Carrie, and our listeners. Everything Carrie said, reach out. Thanks for being with us today.
Yep. And remember, listen, like, and share. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.